some point, humanity collectively decided that medical training was optional. Because why trust a doctor when you can trust a search bar that thinks a headache is either dehydration or a rare medieval plague? We now live in a world where people diagnose themselves using the same website they use to look up dog memes and celebrity net worth. And somehow, they're shocked when things go catastrophically wrong. But don't worry. What you're about to see makes those bad decisions look downright reasonable because this rabbit hole of self-inflicted medical chaos goes much, much deeper. 1. I once met a guy who Googled, "Why does my stomach hurt?" and shockingly did not accept the internet's standard diagnosis of, "Congratulations, you're dying." Instead, he scrolls past all the sensible answers: food poisoning, stress, maybe that third microwave burrito, and finds a forum where some genius recommends drinking apple cider vinegar mixed with cayenne pepper because it burns the sickness out. And for reasons we'll never understand, he thinks, yes, fire in my abdomen will definitely solve fire in my abdomen. 20 minutes later, he's sitting in the ER, sweating like a busted sprinkler, trying to explain that he basically marinated his internal organs like a TikTok roast chicken. And the best part? He still said, "Google usually works for me." Ah, yes, internet doctor. Licensed in absolutely nothing, practicing everywhere. 2. Then there was the woman who Googled how to stop a nosebleed fast and somehow ended up on a page suggesting she shove tampons up both nostrils and then lean her head back until the bleeding naturally relocates downward. I don't know who wrote that, but I fully expect they moonlight as a chaos consultant. She arrives at urgent care looking like a confused walrus who lost a fight with a CVS aisle, and of course, she says the magic words, "Google said it was fine." Google also says the earth is hollow and that your toaster is spying on you, but sure, let's stuff cotton rockets up your nose and act surprised when you can't breathe through your face anymore. This is why doctors drink. 3. A teenager once Googled how to get rid of a pimple overnight, because heaven forbid a microscopic dot threatens his social life. Google's top answer? Apply toothpaste. Normal advice would stop there, but not this kid. He sees a second forum saying, for stronger results, use whitening toothpaste so it bleaches the bacteria. So he slathers his face like he's frosting a cupcake, goes to sleep, wakes up, and surprise. He now has a chemical burn the size of Rhode Island across his cheek. His mom rushes him in, horrified, and the doctor gives that exhausted nod people give when they've seen this exact stupidity no fewer than 200 times. And the boy, with full sincerity, says, "I thought whitening meant it would lighten the redness." Yes, that's exactly how chemistry works. Bravo. 4. One guy Googled how to treat a sprained ankle naturally and decided ice was too mainstream, so he found an article claiming hot peppers increase circulation and speed healing. Instead of eating them like a human, he slices a jalapeno and smears it directly onto his ankle like some artisanal pain-infused lotion. 5 minutes later, he discovers something crucial. Jalapenos don't care about your wellness journey. They will set you on fire no matter where you put them. Now he's hopping around the house like he's auditioning for DIY Cirque du Stupide. And by the time he gets to the ER, the doctor doesn't even ask what happened. They just sigh, glance at the green pepper sludge, and write, "Gooped himself with capsaicin." Google, 0, peppers, undefeated. 5. Another patient Googled, "Why does my eye itch?" And instead of accepting boring explanations like allergies or dryness, he finds a vibrant corner of the internet where self-proclaimed natural healers insist that you can flush toxins by rinsing your eyes with lemon juice. Lemon juice. A substance whose entire brand identity is being acidic enough to melt enamel. He squeezes half a citrus directly into his eyeball, instantly discovering why humans don't season their corneas. Now he's screaming, crying, blinking like a broken windshield wiper, trying to figure out how to tell the doctor that, yes, he willingly made lemonade in his skull. And does he regret it? Well, the website said it was refreshing. Refreshing in the same way a car battery tastes zingy, maybe. 6. My personal favorite is the guy who Googled how to whiten teeth fast because apparently toothpaste and patience were too oppressive. Somewhere in the shadows of the internet, he finds a DIY hack recommending hydrogen peroxide soaking, not diluted, just straight from the bottle like a dental moonshine. So he fills his mouth with it, swishes proudly, and immediately experiences the bubbling chemical regret of 1,000 bad ideas. His gums go white, not whiter teeth white, more like medical emergency styrofoam white. By the time he reaches the dentist, he looks like a cartoon ghost trying to cosplay as a human. And the best part, he still asks, but did it work a little? Yes, if your goal was to dissolve the inside of your mouth like a science project. 7. Someone once Googled best natural laxative and somehow skipped right over prune juice, fiber, water, or anything remotely sane, and found a long-forgotten forum post claiming olive oil shots will lubricate your insides like WD-40. So this genius downs half a bottle like he's pledging allegiance to the Mediterranean diet, then waits. Nature responds instantly. In the span of 1 hour, this man experiences every stage of grief, plus a few new ones undiscovered by psychology. He shows up at urgent care pale, dehydrated, and spiritually defeated, looking like a human cautionary tale. And through cracked lips, he whispers, Google said it was gentle. Gentle? Olive oil was gentle. Drinking half a bottle like it's margarita mix was not. 8. A woman Googled how to make a blister heal faster, and the internet, never one to miss an opportunity to sabotage someone, recommended puncturing it with a sterilized sewing needle. That part isn't entirely insane. But then she finds another post saying to apply heat to close the wound, and she interprets that as press a hot spoon onto it. Suddenly, she's branding herself like she's joining a ranch. The blister, understandably, does not appreciate this treatment. She comes in with a perfect spoon-shaped burn, the kind you'd expect on a grilled panini, and explains it all started with a simple Google search. The doctor looks at her hand, looks at her, and you can see his brain whispering, humans should require supervision. 9. A man Googled how to cure dizziness instantly, and instead of drinking water or sitting down, classic boring solutions, he finds a holistic influencer blog trademark recommending rapid spinning to reset the inner ear. Yes, the cure for dizziness is more dizziness. He stands in his living room and spins like a glitchy NPC, building momentum until physics takes over and he launches himself into the sofa, then into the coffee table. When he arrives at the clinic, he's got a forehead welt, a sprained wrist, and the dignity of a wet dish rag. The nurse asks how it happened, and he says, I was fixing my dizziness. Nothing says healthy lifestyle choices like concussing yourself to treat mild lightheadedness. 10. Another patient Googled natural cure for insomnia and stumbled onto a thread where someone swore that laying an onion on your chest draws out sleep toxins. He thinks, sure, why not? If aromatherapy works, why not vegetable therapy? So he tapes a full onion to his shirt like he's trying to summon a salad spirit and climbs into bed. Instead of sleeping, he lies awake marinating in the scent of emotional regret. His partner calls urgent care, not for a medical emergency, but because she wants a professional to confirm she's not going insane living with this man. The doctor reassures her this behavior is tragically becoming common, and the guy still insists, I felt like it helped a little. Translation, he passed out from crying. 11. One woman Googled home remedy for chest congestion and somehow ended up reading a post that recommended spreading Vicks Vapor Rub on your feet because the toxins drain downward. I want you to appreciate how confidently wrong that is. She coats her feet like she's basting Christmas ham and waits for the miracle. Predictably, nothing happens. So she slathers on more, double layer deluxe spa edition. Soon her feet feel like they're trapped in a glacier wearing mint-flavored socks. She goes to the doctor complaining that her lungs still hurt, and now her toes are numb. The doctor explains that feet are, in fact, not connected directly to the respiratory system in the way her favorite wellness blog implied. She nods, disappointed, and asks, so should I do my hands instead? Ma'am, please don't. 12. A guy Googled how to detox from junk food fast, as if Doritos were a controlled substance. He finds a wellness influencer recommending a 24-hour water-only cleanse with light exercise to accelerate the purge. So he drinks water, goes jogging, and shocker, his body, which has not consumed calories in a full day, responds by shutting down like an outdated laptop. He collapses mid-run and gets hauled into the ER with dehydration, low blood sugar, and what I assume was a profound internal monologue questioning his life choices. When asked what possessed him to starve and sprint simultaneously, he says, Google said it resets your system. Yes, it does. Right into emergency mode. 13. Another person Googled how to boost circulation quickly and found a crowd favorite, ice baths. But not the normal kind, where athletes sit for a few minutes under supervision. No, this guy fills a trash can with ice and hose water, climbs in, and stays until his body begins writing its will. By the time his roommate finds him, he's shaking so violently he looks like he's buffering. In the ER, they're warming him with blankets while he tries to explain that he was biohacking. Buddy, biohacking requires two things: biology and hacking. You had neither. What you had was frostbite flirting with your toes, and Google telling you you're basically Wim Hof Jr. 14. A college student Googled how to cure a sore throat instantly, skipped all medical advice, and found a post insisting that gargling hot salt water works best when the water is as hot as you can tolerate. And because college students have the pain tolerance of caffeinated goats, he heats it until it's 1 degree below lava. He gargles, screams, and immediately loses the ability to speak because he has essentially slow-cooked his own throat lining. When he arrives at urgent care, he communicates by pointing at his neck and looking betrayed. The doctor asks how hot the water was. He writes on a clipboard, "I boiled it." My dude, you didn't gargle salt water, you gargled regret. 15. And then there was the man who Googled how to get rid of hiccups forever, which, to be fair, is exactly the kind of question someone with hiccup-induced rage would ask. Among the usual tricks, holding your breath, drinking water upside down, he sees one lone comment saying, "Scare yourself." But instead of asking a friend to jump out from behind a door like a normal person, he decides the most effective method is watching a compilation of horror jump scares on full volume in the dark. Halfway through the video, he panics so hard he falls backward off his chair, hits his head on the dresser, and arrives at the ER with a concussion, and still hiccuping. The doctor tells him hiccups usually go away on their own. He nods, defeated, realizing Google gave him terror, injury, and zero solutions. A perfect trilogy. 16. A man once Googled best way to clean ears naturally, and instead of choosing literally any answer that didn't involve self-harm, he lands on a blog written by someone who definitely lives off-grid for a reason. Their advice? Warm olive oil dripped into the ear canal to dissolve blockages. Reasonable enough until he decides warm isn't warm enough and microwaves the oil until it's roughly the temperature of the Earth's core. He pours it in, screams loud enough to summon the ancestors, and arrives at urgent care clutching his head while explaining that Google said heat speeds healing. Yes, heat does speed things up, like the rate at which doctors lose hope for humanity. He leaves with melted earwax, damaged skin, and a story that absolutely did not need to exist. 17. A woman Googled how to stop a migraine instantly, which is already a setup for disaster because Google cannot even stop autocorrect from ruining texts, let alone neurological events. She finds a post insisting that pressure points are the key, specifically the temples, and applies pressure with the closest objects available. 2 metal spoons she freezes for maximum effect. Then, because the internet never stops at bad, it always escalates, she sees a second tip saying caffeine helps. So she balances the frozen spoons on her temples while chugging the strongest cold brew known to mankind, then wonders why she's shaking like a malfunctioning Roomba with a brain freeze. When she finally seeks medical help, the doctor gently informs her she basically invented a migraine terrarium on her face. Google, 0. Brain, also 0. 18. A college athlete Googled how to treat muscle cramps fast, and the internet said electrolytes, rest, hydration, all perfectly boring. But then he finds a comment claiming mustard packets are a secret performance hack. So naturally he eats 6 of them back to back, like he's trying to speedrun heartburn. 10 minutes later, he's sweating mustard fumes, his stomach staging a rebellion, and he's lying on the locker room floor realizing he has become a human hot dog. By the time he reaches the ER, he's explaining between dry heaves that he was bio-optimizing. The doctor nods the same nod people reserve for toddlers, explaining imaginary friends, and writes down mustard overdose, which is now forever attached to this man's medical identity. He limps out wiser, but still faintly smelling like a baseball concession stand. 19. Someone Googled how to treat a sunburn naturally and ignored every normal suggestion in favor of one unhinged article claiming pure vinegar restores skin balance. So he soaks a towel in vinegar, actual pickling fluid, and drapes it over his already glowing red shoulders like he's marinating himself for dinner. Within seconds, he discovers vinegar doesn't restore balance. What it does is turn your entire upper body into a chemical battlefield. He rushes into urgent care, smelling like a salad someone left in the sun too long, explaining that the burning sensation must be toxins leaving the body. The nurse tells him it's not toxins, it's literally his dignity evaporating. His sunburn worsened, his faith in home remedies, hopefully shaken, his scent permanently associated with failed barbecues. 20. A man Googled how to cure hiccups instantly and landed on a particularly chaotic thread, suggesting that swallowing a spoonful of peanut butter shocks the diaphragm into realignment. He takes a heaping spoonful, doesn't think about the mechanics, and immediately begins choking, because now his airway is 60% skippy. He flails, panics, tries drinking water, tries breathing, none of which are especially compatible with a mouthful of adhesive peanut sludge. At the ER, still hiccuping between coughs, he tries to maintain dignity while explaining that he was following an evidence-based technique. The evidence, it turns out, was written by someone whose entire medical training consists of once watching a nature documentary about gorillas. He survives, but peanut butter will never again be a comfort food. 21. A teenager Googled how to breathe better during workouts and found an article recommending nasal strengthening exercises, which already sounds suspicious. The instructions? Place strips of tape over the nostrils to train them to stay open. He tapes them shut because teenagers are powered exclusively by overconfidence, and goes for a run. Half a mile in, his body realizes it is not a fish and cannot survive exclusively through mouth breathing while sprinting uphill. He collapses dramatically, ripping the tape off like he's in a low-budget action movie, but not before experiencing the unique terror of suffocating by way of a craft supply. The doctor later informs him that oxygen is not a muscle you bulk up. Tape belongs on presents, not airways. 22. A woman Googled how to treat finger swelling fast, and because the internet thrives on chaos, she sees a suggestion to immerse hands in cold soda because the carbonation reduces inflammation. She plunges her hands into a bowl of ice-cold cola until her skin is sticky, shriveled, and faintly smelling like a movie theater floor. Shockingly, this does not help. She then warms the soda in the microwave, convinced maybe the temperature was the issue, and ends up dipping her hands into warm syrup like some kind of human churro. By the time she reaches urgent care, her fingers are still swollen, but now also coated in caramelized sugar. The nurse asks what happened, and she replies, "I followed a home remedy." Honey, that wasn't a remedy, that was a dessert recipe. 23. Then there was the man who Googled, "Why am I always tired?" And instead of finding the predictable answers, poor sleep, stress, diet, he finds a video titled, "Your tongue is the key to infinite energy." It claims that pressing your tongue to the roof of your mouth unlocks vitality. So he spends 3 straight days tongue flexing like he's trying to bench press his own face. He develops jaw pain, headaches, and a speech impediment, yet insists it's part of the process. When he finally seeks help, the doctor explains that the only thing he successfully activated was his gag reflex and a world-class placebo effect. He looks disappointed, as if the universe personally betrayed him. Sometimes fatigue is just fatigue, not a secret mystical tongue setting. 24. A guy Googled best way to relieve back pain naturally and found a post recommending lying on the floor with a tennis ball under the spine. Great technique when used correctly. Unfortunately, he decides the pain means he needs more intensity and substitutes the tennis ball with a literal baseball, then a lacrosse ball, and finally, a smooth river rock he found outside. He applies full pressure and immediately discovers the breaking point of both his back and his pride. At the clinic, he explains through gritted teeth that he was increasing therapeutic load, The doctor, suppressing a sigh that could level buildings, tells him the goal is relief, not spinal geological testing. He leaves humbled, slightly lopsided, and hopefully no longer collecting landscaping stones for medical purposes. 25. A woman Googled how to stop coughing at night and found a post calmly suggesting that placing raw onion slices beside the bed purifies the air. But she misreads it because the internet loves creating chaos and instead eats half the onion like an apple, convinced it will coat her throat. Her cough doesn't stop because, of course, it doesn't, but now she's crying from the onion fumes, coughing harder, and radiating a scent that could repel wildlife. When she arrives at the clinic, she sheepishly admits that she might have misunderstood the instructions. The doctor assures her that yes, she did, and also that onions are not throat lozenges, aromatherapy devices, or magical Victorian disease sponges. They're just vegetables, and not meant to be consumed whole at midnight. 26. A man Googled how to reduce fever naturally, ignored all modern medicine, and found an old folklore remedy advising people to sweat the illness out. He takes this literally, bundles himself in 3 hoodies, 2 blankets, and a winter coat, then sits in a hot shower until he nearly faints. When he emerges, he's overheated, delirious, and looks like a baked potato someone forgot in the oven. The ER staff asks why he steamed himself like dim sum, and he replies, "I was encouraging my immune system." The doctor explains that fevers are not gym memberships. They don't improve with heat training. He nods weakly, probably too drained to argue, and hopefully retires from DIY sauna medicine forever. 27. A woman Googled how to improve circulation at home. And instead of doing literally anything sensible, she finds a wellness blog recommending inversion therapy without equipment. She interprets this as hang off the edge of the bed upside down, which is exactly how she ends up tumbling backward and rolling like a bowling ball directly into her nightstand. When she arrives at urgent care, she's bruised, dizzy, and clinging to the belief that maybe she was doing it wrong. The doctor gently explains that the instructions were meant for an inversion table, not improvised bedroom acrobatics. She sighs and mutters, "That makes more sense." Yes, shockingly, licensed therapeutic equipment is not interchangeable with falling off furniture. 28. A man Googled how to strengthen immunity fast, which is already suspicious because the immune system is not a graphic you can upgrade in a video game. He finds a post declaring that taking massive doses of garlic activates cellular firepower. He eats 10 raw cloves like he's preparing for a vampire siege, then spends the next 4 hours on the bathroom floor praying for death or at least a mint. When he reaches the clinic, the medical staff can smell him before he enters the room. Through teary eyes, he asks whether garlic is supposed to hurt this much. The doctor informs him that garlic strengthens flavor, not immune systems, and certainly not in doses that rival ancient battle rituals. 29. Another man Googled how to stop snoring permanently and located the worst advice ever written. Strengthen your throat muscles by shouting. So he stands in his living room yelling random words, pineapple, structural integrity, hypotenuse, until his voice cracks like a pubescent cartoon character. He loses his voice completely, but proudly believes this means the throat muscles are adapting. His partner drags him to urgent care, where the doctor explains he has irritated his vocal cords into a temporary retirement. And yes, he still snores. Badly. Turns out shouting nonsense isn't a cure for airway obstruction. It's just a great way to make your neighbors reconsider their lease. 30. A woman Googled, why does my skin feel dry? And instead of moisture or lotion, she finds a blog recommending oil cleansing, which is legitimate, until she uses cooking oil because oil is oil. She smears it all over her face, developing a shine so bright she could guide ships in a storm. Her pores react by staging a violent mutiny, and she ends up with breakouts that practically introduce themselves by name. When she visits the dermatologist, she explains she used extra virgin olive oil because it felt natural. The doctor replies that poison ivy is natural too, but we don't rub that on our faces either. 31. And finally, the man who Googled how to boost lung capacity and misread a breathwork article insisting people should practice deep breath holds. Instead of holding his breath for short intervals, he challenges himself to hold it as long as humanly possible, which ends with him passing out in the shower and knocking down the curtain like a fainting Victorian poet. When he wakes up on the floor, gasping and confused, he decides maybe he should seek medical advice from someone who didn't write it for exposure on a wellness blog. The doctor explains that breath training is gradual and supervised, not a competitive sport you attempt while slippery and naked. Google may have answers, but none of them came with a seatbelt. And that, my friends, is how one search bar turned the human race into a traveling circus of medical disasters. If you made it this far without Googling anything questionable, congratulations. You're already ahead of the curve. Now tell me in the comments, which moment of genius deserves a national award, and what unhinged remedies have you witnessed? Go on, vote for your favorite disaster, argue about the dumbest one, and if you want more of this beautiful chaos, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and brace yourself. The internet always has worse waiting.